multicolor. Well, it is multicolor now. It didn't used to be. Get our pad down here. So how's everybody today? Hope you guys are doing all right. That is a little zoomed in. There we go. That's a little better. That's where we're at so far. Yeah, so hope everybody had a good week. Hope your weekend was good. As we're getting ready to get started here. Oh, I forgot to do one thing. I knew I was forgetting to do something. Get the bots in order here. All right. There we go. So we are back to working on following the second tutorial of the Joy of Painting Season 3 tutorial series from Bob Ross. There you can find the link to the full tutorial on YouTube. We're on the second episode that we are following. Takes a few weeks to get through each one because, you know, I'm a little slow. And it also depends on how intricate of a project it is. So when we last left off, we were almost done the bottom half of our background here. We still have a little bit to go, and I do see a gap in there that we need to fill in. So we will need to take care of that. Remember to have your finger protectors. And we'll grab our needle here. Get that situated for today. Now I didn't do any fiber prep this week, so I was hoping we were going to have enough, and I think we will. I hope we will. So, I mean, we didn't have that much further to go down at the bottom here. I guess we'll find out. If we have to do some on the fly, then we have to do some on the fly. That's just all there is to it. Alright, so we do have storms in the area. I think they're moving out, though. I'm not anticipating any major issues, but should I vanish briefly, I will be back as soon as possible. I'm not anticipating a power blip, but you never know with these types of things. But, you know, hopefully we can get this background all sorted out here so that we can move on to putting in our reflection in. From our moon on the water. Well, that would be fun. Just to get to do something else aside from just, you know, the black and the dark blue. So I'm using the small gauge needle like I said last week. And we'll keep on going. So again, apologies for no Parkitect on Thursday this past week, but life said no, so we listened. Or life said it probably not in your best interest this week. Probably better just to skip that. I wasn't happy about it, but I'm like, alright. Sometimes you just gotta take a mental health day off. Or an extra one. Depending on what the day throws at you. And that was a really bad day. There was just no energy left by the time I got done dealing with everything else that had to be dealt with, so. What can you do? Alright. So I'm almost caught up doing write-ups for max level characters. Well, I'm almost caught up on the backlog, put it that way. I have a feeling one or two people are going to hit max level before I completely finish. But at least I'll have the ones that are glaringly outstanding sorted as best as they can be. That's just a pencil sharpener of mine. I know it's obnoxiously large, but it's just a pencil sharpener that I use just to try to reflatten things out here. So that's not a big worriment. That's like, oh, I need to go out and get another tool. No. You're fine. And that's just something that I do. You probably really don't need to do it, but I find it helps keep things a little bit flatter. For me, at least. Alright. My edge here was getting a little extra uneven, so I'm just gonna try to even that guy out real quick here. I just didn't quite like how far he was starting to stray from the pen line. And I know it's gonna be a little wobbly. That's okay. That's gonna happen. Just with the nature of the material and stuff. Some people will felt over their edge, and then on the back side, sorry about that. On the back side, they'll like try to tuck the edges over to finish it off, but when you do that, then you've got it coming back up through the front. So sometimes that can backfire, and it might not look good. Because then you'll be like having your base fiber and then all the other stuff behind it coming through that you might not want to come through. Especially if you used a funky color like I did. Because then you'll start seeing that color coming back up through the top, and then you'll be trying to re-stab it back through. So, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then cool. Or if you're using a color that it doesn't matter quite so much, also cool. Or if you just want that to happen for your piece, that's fine. I mean, it's your thing. You do what you want. I just don't really want that happening with the orange color here, so let's try to avoid that if possible. probably be about the best. All right. We're getting there, though. Definitely getting there. Alright, I just kind of make little snaky shapes because I find it makes them a little bit easier to rein in here and control a bit. If you would rather just do, you know, however it comes off and it strips, that's fine too. Like I said, it's sort of a trial and error thing to see how you like to handle it. And, you know, go from there. And again, this isn't really like a speed project. It's gonna take some time, especially with the size that we're working on. I mean, I've seen some people work through like videos of kits being done like in a day, but they're also on a mission because they're filming a video. But and I think that their area they're working on is probably quite a bit smaller. I was thinking of doing these in circular pieces and getting the embroidery hoop sort of display method figured out, because, you know, back in my day when I worked at a craft store, we had these chintzy, cheap embroidery hoops, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I could do that, and then I could like stain the hoop, or, you know, dress the hoop up a bit, and, you know, that would be fine, and, you know, glue it in place and all, and that way it's not going to go anywhere. Those prices don't exist in the real world any longer. Far from it. And while they weren't that expensive in the grand scheme of things, they were more expensive than I could afford at this point in time. So that idea is gonna have to be on hold for a minute, shall we say. Oh goodness. Alright. Alrighty. So I'm just gonna work on getting this side all figured out, I think, before we really worry about going the rest of the way across here. And so far this one's been okay. I do have, you know, some slight misgivings on the clouds. They're not my preferred type of cloud, but, you know, that was what was in the tutorial, so I'm just trying to, you know, go with it. Because if I try to redo it now, it's going to be pretty involved to redo it. And I'm trying to just, you know, be happy with how it came out. They're not all gonna be like 1000% knock it out of the park, but, you know, and I do see things that I would like to do differently, slightly differently, and that's always a good thing, where you can see where improvements can be made. Hang on, had my finger jammed a little too hard up in there. The seam was digging into the tip of my finger. So I don't want that. And had a lot of fun doing our Planet Zoo stream this week. Oh, hey Zorts, how's it going? How was your first night or two at work? I'm sure it was probably old hat since you already kind of knew what you were doing anyway. But did you enjoy your refresher course as much as one can possibly? But Planet Zoo was pretty good on Friday there. I'm trying to figure out how to deal with the penguins. Good, you're sore as hell, but good. Yeah, I imagine so. Didn't even know I had a muscle back there. What? What? What is this? The place is as hot and noisy as you remember. Well, at least you knew what you were getting into. Yeah, Russell's plastic place was pretty hot. He'd be like going off to work in December, and it's cold here in December. Like, it can get down into the single digits sometimes, and he'd have shorts on and a tank top, and I'm like, put some pants on, sir. It's like 5 degrees outside. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I'll be fine. He goes, all I have to do is make it to the car and into the building. I'm good. He goes, I'm not freaking putting pants on. He goes, I will faint. And I'm like, no, you need to go. He's like, no. He goes, you haven't been in there. He's like, no. It's like, are you sure you're gonna be warm enough? He's like, woman? He's like, it's fine, trust me. I was like, are you allowed to wear that? He goes, yeah, we're pretty much allowed to wear anything as long as it doesn't get caught in the machines. You can get up to 120 degrees and yeah, that's pretty much what Russell was facing. And it's just like a metal warehouse. It's not that great, and they did have air conditioning, but the air conditioning could not keep up, and they usually had doors open anyway and fans running just to try to get some kind of airflow in there. He was pretty sure a couple of times he had heat exhaustion by the time he came home. I don't know if it would have been any better if he was on overnight shift, because he was during the day. But, you know, it was a job. The pay was okay for the area at the time. I don't know how much they're paying now.
I think they raised it to 12.
That feels a little low for that bullshit, but
It always was here.
But you know, what can you do? And they were really good about working with his anxiety issues. Not all places, especially southern states, are all that willing to work with you. I know that they're technically, legally supposed to a degree, but that was before we really fully knew the extent of his entire diagnosis. We knew some of it, and we thought that was all of it, but it turned out there was more to it. But they were pretty good, and you know, he left on good terms with them. He said, you know, they were like, if you manage to get yourself sorted out, you know, we'd love to have you back. So I mean, that was nice. But the one place that's down here, the one manufacturing company that's in our town as well, apparently they've raised pay to $30 an hour, but they're real, from what I'm hearing, from what other people are saying, they're supposedly not not the greatest people to work for. And they don't seem to care that their turnover rate is so high. And they're just not stellar people. Or at least management on the floor for at least one shift is not stellar. Every time people ask questions about them on the One Town Facebook page, people are like, run very far away and don't you dare go work there because you're gonna seriously regret it. And I'm like, oh my. Is it really that bad? But like, what if you really, really, really don't have a choice? Need to watch my face there. But got a couple little gaps in there. I'm just trying to get filled in. So I've got like one gap here and one gap here. That one's more noticeable. Alright. So yesterday we had some storms move through in the evening. Not a huge deal. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. We were briefly on the edge of a severe thunderstorm warning for hail. So it's like, okay. The car was under the carport. That's all we can do and hope that it doesn't come in sideways. We had a dog show up on our front porch. We're pretty sure we've seen this dog on the camera. That might be the dog that we thought was a coyote that had been on the front porch. I had just put food out for the cat, or the two cats that visit, because, you know, storm was coming in. And we came back inside, and I had our camera on because Russell was looking at the Russell was looking at the lightning. So I was like, alright, I'll put the camera on. So I'm watching the camera. I'm trying to do podcasty post-show things for Lita. And I see this big floofy thing walk into the end of our driveway, past our car and onto the end of our porch, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, Russell. He's like, what? I said there's a dog on our porch. He's like, huh? He was a little slow to react at first. I'm like, there's a dog on the porch. And he was kind of confused, and I'm like, I think I said, it's eating the cat food. And then he's like, oh, and he jumped up. And he went out, and he's like, oh, you're a big dog. His head came up to my waist. And, you know, our guys are like shin tall. Like their heads come up to my knees. So I was a little surprised by how big this dog was. And I've had large dogs before. I've had a Saint Bernard, full blood Saint Bernard. I've had rough coat collies. I'm no stranger to dealing with the taller dogs, but I haven't had to deal with a tall dog in quite some time. So this kind of unnerved me a little bit to the fact that this tall dog was now on our porch investigating our cat food. And then he was kind of hanging around the door. He was like kind of wandering out into the street. So we're like, oh, what the hell? So we were trying to put a leash around his neck to hold him for a minute, to try to post on Facebook or to look on Facebook to see if somebody was missing their dog, if it got out on them. And he didn't like that. He kept balking at Russell every time he tried to do it. So we're like, okay, let's not antagonize the dog we don't know. And there was like no wagging of the tail. There was like no tail movement. So I was a little nervous about this one. I know a wagging tail isn't always a sign of a happy dog, but I was having a really hard time getting a read on this dog's personality, because I'm like, are you friend or are you foe? And he was just very strange. It was like an older, reddish tan husky, but it looked kind of grayed out. It was kind of hard to explain. And it unnerved me a little bit. And then I'm like, okay. And so the dog left, and we're like, all right, well, okay. You know, we can't hold the dog. Number one, we don't know how it's going to react to cats. Number two, I don't have a dog kennel big enough for this dog to cage him. And number three, our dogs would not tolerate this big ass dog they don't know in their house. As it was, Momo came up to the screen door and was kind of smelling him through the screen, and I suddenly wasn't sure the strength of this dog, and I didn't know if he would suddenly lunge, so I was getting a little nervous, and I was like, okay, Momo, okay, go back to your bed, because I didn't know if Momo was gonna suddenly snap or not. But Momo was just kind of curious, right? He's just smelling this dog like, hey, who are you? What's up? So I got Momo to go back to his bed. Dog left, dog disappeared, and we're like, okay. And I was like, well, do you think we should have called animal control? And Russell's like, I don't know. And it's like, the dog's gone now. And I'm like, well, alright. Because we didn't have the number for it, so I finally found it. And about a half an hour or so later, the dog's back on our porch. And I'm like, what the hell, dog? You need to go home. Like, I'm pretty sure I've seen you on our camera before, out just wandering around, having a grand old time. I was like, your ass needs to go home. But we didn't know where he belonged to. So we couldn't just take him home. If we knew where he belonged to, we would have tried to get him in the car and took him home. But we didn't know that. And we didn't have a phone number or contact info for his pet parent. So we're like, okay, now what? So Russell's like, well, let me try to call animal control. Here's some chicken nuggets. Try to keep him here since we can't get a leash on him. And I'm like, all right, he had no collar. And I was kind of nervous about petting him because he was kind of big. He didn't seem growly or aggressive, and it was just there was no outward indication of what he was thinking. So I was like, okay. So I'm trying to deal with this big guy. And we had some chicken nuggets that we had gotten the dogs in the freezer, so I'm trying to keep his attention. And I had his attention with it to a degree, but when I threw it on the porch, he wouldn't eat it off the ground. And I'm like, okay. I don't know if he was just lazy, and I certainly didn't want to stick my hand near his mouth because I don't know this dog. And I'm trying to be cautious because you don't know what could suddenly make a dog that you're not familiar with, click. So I'm like, okay, nice doggy. And he wouldn't eat it off the ground, and I'm like, all right. So I put a piece on one of our seats out there, and he ate it off the seat. I was like, really? He didn't know how to sit, or maybe he was deaf and couldn't hear me say sit. I don't know. I guess that was possible. Or maybe he was just like, no, He wouldn't do like any sort of commands, and I'm like, alright, I mean, it's possible you're just not trained, or maybe I don't know your proper hand signals or whatever your deal is. I'm like, okay. I'm obviously not speaking his language. Whatever that language is. I'm not speaking it, apparently. And then he was trying to follow us in the house. And I'm like, oh no, you cannot come in. You do not live here. So now we have a cat that keeps trying to get in our house. And now we have a dog that's trying to get in our house. I'm like, animals, you don't live here. And I don't have a shelter set up for you. I would love to run a shelter for you, to a degree, providing you all aren't aggressive and I can figure out what the hell to do with you. Or a sanctuary. But I don't have the acreage. And I don't have the buildings for you to stay in. Like, this isn't possible. Like, you can't stay here. And I don't know you. I don't know your personality. And I don't have room for you. There's no vacancy. If we didn't have any other animals, we probably would have let him come in at least for the night. Or possibly till Monday. To either get animal control to come get him, or to see if someone was going to claim him. But neither one of those things happened. So it was like, okay. Sorry, I'm gonna mute 1 second. I desperately have to blow my nose. 1 minute. Okay, terribly sorry about that. It's been real bad allergies the past, 3 days. I stepped outside briefly, and the wind was just making my eyes burn, a little bit ago. So, that was not fun. So yeah, we keep ending up having animals show up. We called animal control, and they don't work on the weekend or at night, apparently. And I'm like, well, what the fuck good is having an animal control that doesn't work on the weekend? And the cops wouldn't come and pick up the dog. They're like, we don't do anything with dogs. And I'm like, how helpful. This dog's gonna wander out into the street and get hit by a car, because he was wandering into the street. I'm like, thanks, guys. I thought they had hired a second animal control officer, and I'm like, you mean between 2 officers, nobody works on the weekend? Come on now. I know this is a small town, but what the F? And then I was trying to figure out if we had to call Washington County Washington County Sheriff. I'm like, who the hell do we call to come deal with this dog? Because we were watching him on camera walk out into the street and just kind of stand there. He circled our property for what had to have been almost a half an hour the second time when he came back, and he kept standing at the door staring in, even though it was shut, like he was waiting for us to come back and open it and let him back in. I'm like, you're really confused. This is not your house. And he eventually wandered away when I went to go to the bathroom. Oh, what is happening? Oh, we had a raid. Lots of flamingos. Thank you for the raid. Much appreciated. Welcome, welcome. I am Nisey. I know it's an odd spelling, and a lot of time people pronounce it Nisey or Nisey or whatever. It's Nisey. We do a variety of things here. Today we're doing art. Most of the time we're playing games at the moment, but today we're doing art. We do art on Sunday. And today we're needle felting. And we are needle felting along with a Bob Ross tutorial. We're working on getting our background put in. And we chat and tell stories. And we're working on just as you went to raid, you realized you hadn't pronounced your username before. Yes, it's Nisey. It's based off of my real name. So my real name is Denise, and a lot of people that I used to work with would always say, "Hey, Nisey." So that's just kind of what we went with. And so and the BGN is just from my WoW days. I still play WoW, but we ran a guild, so that's like the initials of the guild name. Yeah, so Ni and C. Yep, you got it. So like your knee and like you're looking out, seeing stuff. So the BGN was just the initials from our guild name, just so that I had a way of identifying myself from the other Niseys that seem to be out there, but that I've never met. So it's actually very hard to get the username Nisey without any attachments on it, apparently. So the guild initial attachment sort of had to be permanently attached because that was the only way I could get the rest of the spelling. I probably could have tried to do the phonetic spelling everywhere, but it would have been a little weird. I have it phonetically spelled on my Discord. Well, on Discord, my Discord name, so that people have some sort of idea of how to pronounce it. But yes, welcome. I hope you are. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it was that common either. And I guess there's a celebrity, or maybe they were a D-list celebrity, I don't know how popular they were, that was that went by Nisey. And but they had a slightly different spelling. Can't even type Nisey on your phone without trying to autocorrect and nosy. I think this celebrity spelled it with a C instead of an S. And I think people couldn't get the C, so then they started sticking the S in there, because I had not heard many people called that. And I was like, okay, well, we'll just go with my nickname then, that's fine. And no, it wasn't fine. I have a hell of a time getting it wherever I go. So I either have to phonetically try to spell it, or I have to add my my guild initials on the end of it. Like the things one has to do to get a username, I swear. So we are working on the second tutorial of the Season 3 Joy of Painting tutorials from Bob Ross. We've done a couple of tutorials so far with the actual oil painting method and stuff. And I thought, that's cool and all, but sometimes the oil paint triggers a migraine for me because of the smell. I'm very sensitive. So I was like, well, what can we do different? I mean, we could try to do acrylic. We could try to do watercolor, trying to follow it. I suck at watercolor. I'm very nervous with it. And I was like, well, what can we do? I've seen people try to paint blindfolded. I've seen people try to paint with just the audio in their ear, which is kind of like blindfolded, but they can still see what they're doing. I've seen people even try to follow along using frosting. So I was like, well, what can we do? What's different? And I had started I got some needle felting supplies for Christmas because I've been wanting to try it for a while. I was like, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if we tried to needle felt following a Bob Ross tutorial? That would be quite the project. Because we can't mix colors like paint can mix. Because, you know, you can mix paint together and get a totally different color. Fiber, you can mix fibers together and have it be sort of a variegated, but it's not going to change and morph into a brand new color. So this is the first, this is episode 1 that we followed. Let me bring that back into the center a little bit. So this was from the first episode, I think it was called Mountain Retreat of season 3 that we followed. This took us about 13 weeks to complete. We lost kind of some of the darker blue that was over here, but you know, that's fine. And, you know, it was kind of fun. It was definitely a challenge to work through. So now we're kind of working on the, episode 2. We're a couple weeks in on episode 2 that we're following now. We're not going to be able to do every episode from this season because of, you know, the limitations of felting, basically. And some of the stuff he does, I just don't think I'm at a skill level that I can even attempt to pull off with this stuff. Because I haven't been doing this stuff that long. I did manage to make a 3D critter, which I'm all sorts of ridiculously proud of. So I made a flamingo. That was the first 3D critter I ever made. Let me see. There we go. See him a little bit better. He's all sorts of derpy and and a little deformed, but I love him. So that's Marvin. Marvin's my desk lawn flamingo. But you know, keeping with the flamingo theme. And yeah, so this is what we're trying to do. You're going first. Derpamingo. I can't even talk today. But yeah, so we are following this tutorial. Okay, so there's the link to the full video on YouTube on the Bob Ross channel there. Totally not sponsored by Bob Ross Corporation in any way, shape, or form. We're just kind of following along for fun. And we're a little bit slower to follow along here because this is a slower medium to work with. 100% slower. Make sure that we're kind of in frame here. And, you know, we're just kind of working our way through it. We'll get there when we get there, basically. So I hope you guys had a good stream. Hope you're having a good weekend. We're kind of trying to do this around some storms moving through. Although I think they moved away. I thought they were going to be coming towards us, but they went sort of southeast instead of southwest, so I wasn't sure if we were going to be battling flickering lights today or not, but we might be in the clear. We're still under a severe thunderstorm watch, and for another maybe 45 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that, if they don't extend it. But at least they weren't expecting tornadoes today, so I'll take it. I mean, you can't always rule one out, but you know, they weren't all that terribly alert for tornadoes. They're not like, oh, this is going to be a big tornado outbreak day. They seem to be more worried about hail today. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can deal with hail. That's alright. Hail doesn't always cause damage. Although the size they were looking at, it probably did, but so that's okay. We can handle that better than we can the spinning clouds of doom. So we are working on this one. We almost have our background fully in. It takes a little bit putting the backgrounds in. So on this one that he was doing for episode 2, it was a black canvas that he overlaid transparent color on top of, and obviously that doesn't really work. with needle felting. So we have to kind of figure it out. So I was originally thinking, well, what if we just put it on a black piece of felt, and then, you know, we could just put in the color over top of it. But then I thought that might look a little odd, and sometimes the black felt can just pick up every single fuzz ever. So I was like, well, I mean, not like this isn't doing much better, but you know, I was like, I don't know, it might look funny to have just color coming out of the darkness. And so, at least with this medium, because it's gonna be textured and raised, because this isn't, I mean, you can make it flat, but it's still gonna layer up, so to speak. You can try to make this flat and it will appear flat. You can add some texture to it by twisting and anchoring in certain places and whatnot, that I've seen some people do to try to, you know, get like trees to pop out and look like they're a little bit more filled in and stuff. So I mean, that's possible. Sorry, I had a little bit of a gap trying to happen there, so I just want to get that taken care of. You don't have to do this part. This is just something I've started doing. It helps keep everything from being a little too bunched up, as far as I'm concerned. So I was like, no, let's just do the black. So I had to buy a whole bunch of yarn. I'm using acrylic yarn. Some people, well, most people use wool roving, Roving, to do this traditionally. You can do it with the acrylic yarn. It takes a little bit more prep work though. But my budget is like, girl, you know what you're doing? You're gonna prep that yarn, because you don't have the money to buy that much roving to do this project. That's just not gonna happen. I can tell you that right now. So roving's not cheap. Especially in the amount that I was going to need and the amount of colors I was going to have to do it in. So this is definitely a cheaper alternative to roving, and you get a lot more, I think, for your dollar. Especially those that are on very tight budgets like myself. I managed to catch a yarn sale through Joann Fabrics around New Year's. I guess it was part of their New Year's celebration. I haven't seen it that low since on this particular brand. I got their in-house brand called Big Twist. It was their value line. I'm like, I'm not knitting a sweater. It doesn't have to be like top quality Lion brand cashmere, you know, whatever. It needs to just be acrylic yarn and cheap. That's my main goal. I was originally going to look at Walmart, but when I saw the price at Joann's, I was like, not sponsored by Joann, by the way. Hey, if they would like to, maybe we can talk, but definitely not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. But there are some more yarn colors I would like to get, but I don't have the money to get them. Not for quite some time. It probably might be 6 months or so before I'm able to do that. Okay, you go there. So, don't need sharp things rolling around all on their own. But, yeah, so it was on sale around New Year's for $1.99 a skein. And skein is what they call just, you know, your packages of yarn. And let me see here. This one should be able to be seen on camera. So there were like 300 and some odd yards of yarn. I wasn't expecting them to be as big as they were when they showed up, because, you know, yarn, everything's gotten expensive, but that's a good amount of yarn there. And for the price, I was like, oh, okay, cool, we can do that. I couldn't get all of the colors I necessarily wanted because it was on sale, so they were sold out of some. And I'm not a huge fan of Joann's shipping because they ship it funny. So like some colors I could have picked up for free on curbside pickup, but then other stuff I was gonna have to order and do shipping on anyway, and I was like, because they didn't have all the colors for curbside that I wanted, and I'm like, okay. I was like, let's just pay the shipping. The shipping was a little expensive for me, but money was super tight, so I wasn't able to get, like I said, all the colors I wanted because it was either out of stock, so I had to settle for a similar shade, or I just ran out of cash. So, but they were on sale for $1.99. They were half off. They were originally, I think $4.99. No, that would have been $2.99. $3.99. I guess they were originally $3.99. Whatever it was, they were half off, and they were $1.99 in US dollars for that amount of yarn. I'm like, shit. I was like, yeah, let's go. So I managed to get like 20 some colors of yarn. And I wasn't able to get all of the colors, and a couple of colors I forgot that I needed. But I don't need that much of it, so we can get by with the little extra roving amounts that I have from the sample roving set that I got when I first got the stuff to see if I was going to enjoy doing it. But yeah, there's definitely more colors I want to get. So there is more prep work involved if you go the yarn route. 100%. You're basically doing the prep work that they do on the roving before you buy it. So the roving is basically wool that is in its pre-state before it becomes yarn. So it's not spun, basically. It's smoothed out, combed out wool. I also couldn't find all of the shades in the roving. I was looking, trust me. It just wasn't going to work, so I was like, yep, acrylic yarn it is. So you have to get a sticker brush. And you're probably thinking, a what? A sticker. S-T-I-C-K-E-R. A sticker brush. You're like, okay, well, what the fuck is that? So a sticker brush is not an art supply necessarily. It is a dog grooming brush. And I know it sounds effing ridiculous, but that's what you have to get. I've seen them in the Dollar Tree. I don't know how well they're made from the Dollar Tree, but I have seen them there. You can usually find them in the grocery store, in your pet food supply aisle, usually. And 1 second, I will show you what the heck I'm talking about. I just want to get this anchored in here. Alright, so they come in a couple different sizes. I grabbed what they had, so it was a pretty big one. It looks like a square or a rectangle with a handle attached to the back of it. And it looks kind of scary. When you're looking at it, you're like, okay. So they might not call it a sticker brush on the shelf. It's kind of like an undercoat brush to get like the under fur. So some of your dogs that have like the double coats, that have like the cottony undercoat that comes off, like your collies and, you know, your floofy ones. Let me see if I can turn this sideways. So it has these lovely metal, very thin metal little spiky guys on there. Going this, oh, hang on. Okay, so going this way, it's not terribly sharp. It's a little rough. But you know, you can touch it. Oh, I still had fuzz in there. And sorry, there was an ant on my leg. We had to deal with that. So you're gonna cut off some lengths of yarn, however long you feel comfortable dealing with. I try to keep it like 4 to 5 inches, maybe 6 at the most, because it can get a little bit fussy. So I've seen some people take these lengths of yarn and tape them down on a piece of cardboard. I just hold them in my hand. My one thumb will get a little roughed up because of these, because this will be constantly hitting my thumb as I'm holding it. Some people just kind of hold it in their one hand and have it on a flat surface so they don't rip up their finger. If you don't want your finger ripped up, if you need your hands to be pretty, then I would definitely have a piece of cardboard or a hard surface that can get scratches on it, because this probably will scratch the surface, and hold the yarn and go like that. So you're basically cutting off a length of yarn, and here we can do a couple real quick here. You want to try to make sure that your yarn's the same length. It will definitely help. These are probably a little long, but well, they're not that long. You want to start out slow. Hang on, I got to take these off. I've already tried to do it with those on and it didn't work too well for the holders. So you want to start out short, shall we say. You don't want to start out like all the way up here. No. You don't want to start all the way up there. You want to start towards the bottom. Trust me. And then you're just gonna like hold it and then run the brush through it. And it's going to untwist your yarn. So as you're going and the comb's going through it, you can see where it's undoing the twisties from the fibers. And you're just gonna keep doing that till it's fluffy and untwisted. And then move up as you go, and then, you know, when it gets to a certain point, you're going to want to flip and do the other side. But that's how I do it. I've seen other people have it on a surface and just kind of hold it down. It's going to make a scritchy noise, so depending on your surface. So if that's a noise you can't handle, then maybe holding it will be better for you. Sorry, that was really close to the microphone. I apologize for that. So so it'll get floofy, and then, you know, you'll do the other end, and then you'll eventually end up with this. So, and if you get any in your brush, you can just pull it out and use that. Of course, you want your brush to be clean of the previous color that was in there. If you don't want like a two-toned look. But yeah, and you can use the stuff that was in the brush. That's more than fine. It's alright. It's all good. And to get the stuff that's still in the brush, you can take a pair of scissors or like a popsicle stick or like a kitchen skewer. I don't know if I would use a pen. I mean, if you're in a pinch, maybe. Like, this is like just a cheap ass hair barrette. Probably run that through just to get the extra floof in there. Hold up so you can grab it. Just to clean it before you swap colors. But yeah, so it does involve a bit more prep work to use the acrylic yarn. But if you're on a tight budget, it's a heck of a lot cheaper. Leaps and bounds cheaper. So when I of course, you know, do your research before you go that route. I did. I was like, is this really a thing? You know, because I didn't want to get burned by going and getting all of the stuff and then having it not work. So there is a stipulation to that. If you're trying to do figurines, like the little needle felted dolls or you know, little guys like my flamingo and stuff, I've seen a couple people say that the acrylic yarn doesn't really like to stick to itself quite like the roving does. So you may struggle a bit if you are strictly using the acrylic yarn to make figurines. In that case, they've taken some roving, the wool roving. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Like I said, allergies have been terrible this spring. They've taken some of the wool roving, the good proper stuff, where they've just like used a neutral cream white color as their base, and they made the base of their figurine, and then they came back over it with the acrylic yarn color and did their thing on top of it, and then that worked out fine for them. So just something to keep in mind depending on what you're doing. But for doing like the flat painting, it works fine. We've not had any issues with it whatsoever. If it's gonna be a project that you want to frame, you may want to get a mat if you don't want the wonky edges to be a little bit of an issue. Like if you don't care about them being seen, then that's fine. If you want it to look a little more finished, you could get a mat, or you could get a frame that has a smaller opening to hide. Like we're gonna cut off this orange on when we're done, but the edge might still be a little uneven, because you know, it's fiber, it's felt, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. You know, there's only so much we can control. But yeah, I mean, you can do a mat to try to hide it. Now, if you do want to frame it, I do want to make sure. You're probably going to have to either get like a specific, let's see. So I worked in a craft store for 6-7 years. They had a custom framing department. So they had open frames that were kind of specifically for canvas, that had no glass. Now you could have glass cut for it, but they had specific frames that didn't have glass in them in a variety of sizes. You could go that route, or you could just get a frame off the shelf and take the glass out. If you are hell-bent on the glass being in there, make sure you have a sturdy enough frame or enough knowledge in framing things, because the back is probably going to take a little bit of fussing to get back on the frame. Like it's not like just a photo where you pull the back off and you slip it in and you put the back on. I know it's like, well, it's just a piece of felt. It's thin. What are you talking about? Like, it's fine. It's it doesn't stay the thickness of this, okay? So this is like the standard thickness of this felt sheet, right? Okay, you can kind of see it. You know, not a big deal, right? Don't want to stab myself. This is what it looks like when it's done. So if you compare it to the original, I mean, now this one did have a lot of layers on it, so that is something else to keep in mind. That might not be the same for every piece, but this tiny thin green teal strip in here, that was the original felt base. So that probably tripled in thickness by the time we were done compared to the thickness of the base. So it's just something to keep in mind. If you really want that glass in there, you might have to get creative with how you frame it or how you keep the back on your frame, or you might want to have it professionally done, or sorry, I live on a very busy road. For those that are new here, there's going to be traffic. I apologize. Or just accept that it might be better without the glass. So, you know, just those are your options. I mean, you don't have to put it behind glass. You don't have to necessarily put it in a frame. You could maybe plan and leave a little bit extra on the top. Sorry, I'm seeing a gap there I need to fix. Or you could like leave a little extra felt on the top maybe, or give yourself a little extra room to roll over, and maybe do like a dowel through the top and kind of like do like a scroll hang. So it's understandable you're not fussed by a little background noise. Well, that's good, because we have background noise here, especially when I'm on the podcast. I sometimes will be on the WoW Challenges podcast it's a World of Warcraft community, leveling community podcast that I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff for after the shows are done. But sometimes I'm a guest on there, and of course every time when I have to talk there's like a motorcycle gang going by. The loud vehicles always. Plus we lived right across the street from a large brick building, and so this brick building likes to amplify all of the obnoxiously loud vehicles in this town. I think you can probably picture what I mean by obnoxiously loud, like, you know, the trucks that are jacked up on tires that are like way too big for them, or they're like 5 inches off the base of where it should be, off the chassis that's raised up and stuff, and I'm like, why must you be so loud? And you know, and then we have our fair share of bikes in the area and going by, and we'll occasionally have a tractor trailer or a semi go through. This used to be, well, it sort of is the main road through our town. It's not a very big town. Like, population-wise, it's not a very big town. It's pretty broad in the sense that it's a very spread-out town. We're sort of in a half farming community, half suburb kind of deal. Is where we ended up. But, you have a train that goes past you often. I used to. When I was in New Jersey, the one place that we rented, long before I got married, when I was little, there was a local train station that was like right across the street from us. So you would have the high-speed Amtrak when they were doing it running through there, and they'd be like laying on their horn coming through the station, and then because it was a raised up station, and not really an elevated train, it's just the station was up on a hill so that it didn't interfere with traffic down below, and once it got over the traffic area, then it went back down to basically ground level, and then there was a local commuter train that would come through. It was only just the 2 train lines basically, so it wasn't too bad. It was only the one track that came through there, but the commuter train would pretty much go through like all hours of the day for casino employees going back and forth through Atlantic City to Philly and stuff. And so, you know, it'd be like 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd hear the train whistle go doot, as it like a pathetic little doot doot sense of the time of night coming in, and but, you know, it would like vibrate the walls in our apartment and stuff, so there'd be like stuff shaking, and I'm like, okay. But you know, you definitely knew the train was there, and I'd kind of forgotten what it was like living with it, and then once you get used to it, you kind of start tuning it out, and it just becomes, you know, background noise. And we had moved out of that apartment we were out of there for quite some time, and there was some family drama, and my dad moved into an apartment right next to where we had lived previously. It was from the same family that we had rented from previously at the property that was right next to it. So he was right across from the train station again. And when we had to go back to New Jersey to help him move, we were staying with him the first night or two. Or we had planned to stay with him. At least the first night. He didn't have air conditioning in his apartment, and I don't think it was dead on summer, but it was hot in there. I can't remember what time of year it was that we went up there.
I'm pretty sure it was summer here.
Was it summer? We went up 2 different times to help him move down. It's a whole huge ass story.
If it wasn't like full on summer, it was just short.
Yeah, it was either unseasonably warm, or it was coming into summer. And it was pretty warm in his apartment, so he had the windows open and stuff. He could have put a window AC in, but then they would have raised his electric bill by a certain amount, or his rent by a certain amount, because the electric and rent were kind of all rolled into one, and he didn't really have the extra to spare on it. So, I mean, that was fine. And we were getting him out of there anyway. But, so the window was open, and then the train came through, and Russell's like, what the hell is that? Because Russell had never experienced living right next to it. And I'm like, oh, that's the train. And I was like, oh yeah, the train, I forgot about that. He's like, oh my. So, that was a whole ass thing. But, we had stayed there the one night. And there, like I said, there was family drama going on, which was partially why we had gone up there to help my dad move back in with us halfway across the country. And because we had moved to Arkansas, there had been family drama going on. I'll give you the condensed version. He was living on his own for a while. We didn't like that because he's got a bunch of medical issues. And it could be very bad if he's alone and he has like a diabetic episode or something. So we're like, yeah, no, you're not living by yourself like this. This is not gonna happen. And, he kind of kept, pushing me off. I'm like, no. I was like, you can't be by yourself with everything that's wrong with you. That's not gonna work. And my mom was being a whole ass thing. So, at the time, they were having their own little feud or war or whatever. And of course, I inadvertently get drawn into it because I'm not putting up with this bullshit anymore. We had been out of the house for a while, and I was finding my own adult voice, and I wasn't putting up with the bullshit any longer. I wasn't a child anymore. I didn't have to just, go with it. I'm like, no. Like, if you two had your shit figured out and he didn't have all this other shit wrong with him, I'd probably be like, fine, you two figure it the fuck out, and you call me when you know what the hell you're doing. But because of all of his issues, it was not a good situation. So I'm just like, you don't want to admit it, but you need supervision. You at least need someone in the same house to occasionally realize, hey, I haven't seen you in a couple of hours. Are you okay? So, or heard you moving around. So it's like, someone needs to be with you. So, we'd gone up there. We had moved him down with us into Arkansas, where we had ended up. And, then his son from his previous marriage decided that he was gonna stick his nose in the whole ass thing. And he really had no business sticking his nose into this, because it didn't involve him. It in no way, shape, or form involved him. It barely involved me. And trust me, I did not want to be the adult getting involved in this, because, they're two grown-ass senior citizens at this point. They can figure out their high school shit. And I was so stressed out from living with it for a while. I didn't want to deal with it, but here I was in the middle of it. And he sticks his nose in. He doesn't live with them. He didn't live with them. He never lived with them. He didn't have any kind of horse in that race whatsoever, except to be a nosy bastard. And it's not like he was stopping by every day. It's not like he was calling every day. I couldn't figure out what the deal was, because there was no reason for him to be involved. He had nothing in this. Like, there was no reason. And you could say, well, yeah, it was his dad too, so that's a reason. Except they were kind of estranged for a number of years. I had only met this gentleman, and I use that word loosely, a few times when I was growing up, when I was little, and he had 2 kids of his own when I was like in 3rd, 2nd grade, you know, as I was growing up. He's much older than I am. And no one ever explained to me that that was my half-sibling. I thought it was a cousin. I'm not gonna lie. No one explained it to me. I didn't know who this guy was that lived a couple blocks from my grandma's that my grandma kept taking me over to see. I thought it was an uncle or a cousin or something. I was young, I was dumb, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And people in my family weren't exactly forthcoming with information. So, and apparently my mom didn't know at first that my grandmother was doing that, so she wasn't real happy about that either. But somehow this half-sibling, I'm sorry, that's hard to say, I don't really view them as a sibling, I view them as a nuisance. So they got involved in this, and I'm like, why are you involved? Like, why? I lived with them. I moved out, and then shit got worse after I moved out, so I felt partially responsible. So, and I wasn't about to leave him living alone. And when I had told that sibling, because they had since come back into the picture, vaguely on like, they were like a misty image on the outside edge, and they had been trying to get me to go to dinner with my parents and himself and his new wife several times, but he always invited me to go out to dinner with everybody. At the time, I was asleep to go to work because I worked night shift at the time, or at a time where I was going to have to be getting up to get ready so that I could catch a bus to get into work. And then it kind of made me look like the asshole because I had to keep saying no. I really didn't want to go anyway. But, you know, it's like, I told you I have to work at this time. I told you I need to sleep at this time. I work overnight. I don't really... how to put this as politely as possible. I wasn't really invested in any kind of relationship with this dude. So I wasn't gonna lose sleep over it, shall we say. He was not in my book of, oh, you're family. He was in my book of, oh, you're this guy that's like, I now understand to be my dad's son from a previous marriage that happened well before I was even thought of. So, and he never really tried to have a relationship with me either. So it was very awkward, and I always felt like odd man out, right? So it's like, I've got all these siblings, but yet I'm an only child. And people are like, what do you mean you're an only child? Like, you said you were an only child. How do you have all these siblings? Well, they're half siblings. And I know some families have great relationships between half siblings. My family was not the case. And everybody was so much older than me that they were full grown ass adults and I'm still in school. So, I mean, my one half sister, who I think might be the oldest sibling, was like 13, 14 years older than me. So it's like, it was very awkward. And nobody wanted to spend time with me anyway. Like, nobody. So I'm like, all right, so I'm an only child of that marriage. But, yeah, I've got half siblings, but, we don't see each other, so they might as well just be strangers. So yeah, I didn't understand why he was involved. He didn't have a horse in the race as far as I was concerned. He's a grown-ass man, had his own house. His 2 kids were in college or wherever, had jobs, I don't know. They had their own family situation starting. And I'm just like, why do you care? Like, you didn't speak to this man for over 20 years. You only kind of popped back in the picture when he almost died. And my husband called you. So that you knew. So you can't be pissy and say nobody called you and told you. Then you tried to start having a relationship with him that was very flighty. And was not really a sure thing because you felt weird about suddenly having a dad in the picture again, and you didn't know how to conduct yourself or didn't know if this was a relationship you wanted, but yet you're gonna call him every night. Well, not every night, some nights when you're driving back from your job in New York. Like, it felt weird, but then you'll go another set of like months where you don't talk to him. So it was odd to me. It was very odd. Like, you're not here for X amount of time, and then you show up and start flexing and telling him about what a big deal you are for the company that you work with, and how there's different companies fighting over you in the industry that you work in because they want you to work for them, and like, you're this big shit and you do all this traveling coast to coast and all over. And I'm just like, it just felt like such an unnecessary flex, and I'm just like, really? Just, who cares? Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess he was proud of it, and I guess that's something to kind of be proud of, but at that point, it felt like it was too much, too fast, and I don't know. It just felt like an unnecessary flex. So I had emailed this this sibling. I was like, hey, here's the deal. I'm moving out. There's not going to be anybody here regularly to keep an eye on him because parent A and parent B are having a thing. They're having a disagreement, shall we say, that was, I think, long. It was really stemmed through a different incident that I'm not going to go into. That was very awkward and very embarrassing and shouldn't have ever been a thing, but it was turned into a thing. And then it was turned into another thing a few years down the road when more information was suddenly brought to light. But we're not going to go into that today. So I emailed him. I'm like, look, she's not really in the house all that much right now. She's staying with her sister. I'm moving out. I've been, dealing with this for a very long time now, years, and I can't do this anymore. The tension is to the point where Russell and I have decided that we want to do our life now. We've put our life on hold enough. Because there was a whole bunch of other shit going on with my mom at the time involving us too, as well, not just my dad. And we were about to have a mental breakdown, or something was going to give. So it's like, we're going to remove ourselves from this situation. We're not happy. Well, I wasn't real happy with my option, but that was my option, and that's what it was going to be. So we moved out, and I told him we were leaving. And I was like, hey, I'm not going to be here. Could you maybe like call and check on him every so often, make sure he's all right, and you know, make sure he doesn't need anything or something, because you know, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be, you know, 1,200 miles away. I'm moving to the middle of the country. So, you know, if you could at least, you know, check in on him, call him. You know, I'm not saying you have to be here every day. I'm just saying, could you at least call and make sure he's answering the phone, because you're a hell of a lot closer than I am if he needs to be physically checked on. Well, the email I got back was rather nasty, and was going off on me about how all of his financial woes that he has, and that he can't afford to give our father money to help him and stuff. And I'm like, what? I actually went back and reread the email I sent him, and I'm like, I didn't in anywhere in this email imply that you had to buy him stuff, that you had to give him money. All I said was, could you effing call him to make sure he didn't have a diabetic episode and wasn't laying unconscious or dead somewhere in the house for nobody to find for a month. Like, that's all I wanted, was for him to just call and check on the man. That's all I asked for. And he gives me this whole huge ass sob story about why he can't give him money. And I'm like, I didn't effing ask you to. And I think I was pissed off, and I think I emailed him back, and I can't remember if I imagined this or if I actually did email him back, and I was like, you know what, don't worry about it. I didn't ask you to give him money. I don't know where you were getting that from. All I asked you was to freaking call him and make sure that he was okay from time to time. You didn't even have to call him every day. At least, you know, every couple of days. Just make sure the man's alive. But you know what, if that's too much for you, then don't worry about it. It's fine. Have a nice life. And I was pissed. And I'm like, why is it that everybody wants shit from me, or takes time or effort, or, you know, things from me, and I ask my half sibling one insignificant thing that would take 10 minutes out of your day when you were already kind of calling him at night on your drive home anyhow. That's the kicker. He was already kind of calling him at night on his drive home, and I just kind of wanted him to make sure that he could at least, you know, every couple of days try to do that. I mean, I understand he had his own life and he was busy, but, you know, just a phone call, because you're a lot closer than I am. And I mean, I could call him too to check up on him, but you're closer if there's a problem. You know, you're like 3-4 hours away. I am 2 days away. So, like, you know, it didn't really seem like I was asking all that much, but apparently I guess I was. And I never understood that from people. You know, I'll do everything under the sun to try to take care of something for someone within my ability to do so. And the second I ask somebody else a very small inconvenience, very small, it was like, oh my God, how dare I have the gall to ask you to do this thing? And you're a terrible person for asking me to do this thing? Even though I was probably already going to do this thing, but now that you've kind of asked me to make this an actual dedicated effort thing that I need to try to do, even though you said it didn't have to be every day or anything, I'm going to flip my shit, and I'm going to dig my feet in and have a temper tantrum like a toddler, and oh my God, how dare you? I'm like, really? You're a grown-ass man. You're older than I am. Okay? You're on what? Wife number 2? Wife number 3? You've taken care of kids. You know what it means to be a dad. You can't even call your own father and make sure that he's gonna answer the phone. 'Cause, you know, or stop by maybe once every 2 weeks or a month or something. Just for 5 minutes, make sure he's alright. Get eyes on him. no, that was too much. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Don't worry about it. That's fine. If I have to, I'll call the police department to do a welfare check on him. I don't want to do that, but if I have to, then apparently I have to. Have a nice life. So I kind of was like, wrote him off, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I thought we could have a relationship. Maybe. Because, you know, shit happens. I'd already lost the half-sibling that kind of gave a shit about me, that kind of tried to do stuff with me, when they were able to. One of the what? So 3 on my mom's side, 2 on my dad's side. I don't think I've ever laid eyes on the half-sister from my dad's previous marriage. For the longest time, I think I thought her name was Tiffany, but it's something else. So, that's how much I knew her. And, if I walked into her on the street, I wouldn't even know her. So, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Wrote him off. Well, then when my dad moved down here the first time, you know, he seemed so happy. He was happy that he wasn't by himself anymore. And then he did have a sugar episode shortly after he was here, and we were able to help him and get him, you know, his candy and whatever and stuff. And so he wasn't alone for that. And so he felt so much better. And things were great. And then, don't you know, he started talking to my mom, and then, you know, my mom was all, oh, I miss you, and this, that, and another thing, and there was some other shit going on where they were gonna have to move out of the house they were living in anyway. I mean, the house was still there. The house was still in their name, but it was basically in foreclosure because a whole bunch of financial shit went down. And so my remaining brother on my mom's side, after my dad left, decided that he was gonna go and fix up the house that was in foreclosure. Replace some things, redo one of the floors, paint, get rid of some mold that was in there, so that my mom could move back in and out of my aunt's house, where she had been staying. And I'm just like, the house is in foreclosure. Why? Like, you fixed up the house, minor fixes, grant you, so that, because in his words, every woman needs her own house. Did my mom not tell him the house was in foreclosure? Like, it was, like, in hard-ass foreclosure. And for some reason, my one uncle kept telling my mom, oh, it'll take years for it to go through bankruptcy court, or not bankruptcy court, but foreclosure court and all this other shit. And, they're so backed up. Well, they weren't backed up anymore. And for some reason, she seemed to take what my uncle said as gospel, and he didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He was talking out of his ass half the time. And, I could have told her that. I was like, you don't bank on something going the way it had before when you're dealing with, like, the court system and finances and things. You don't, because every time it's gonna change, especially the court system's always in flux. It's always moving. You know, they're not gonna be backed up forever. And I'm 1,200 miles away, not understanding a whole ass thing that's going on up in New Jersey. I'm out of the loop. I'm not able to eavesdrop because I'm not there in the same house, you know, hearing what people are talking about. So I have some idea of what the fuck's going on, because nobody tells me anything that I need to know, right? So, and if I'm living in the house and you're doing shit, I need to know what you're doing, especially when I'm contributing to paying the bills. sorry, that's the way it goes. I need to know these things. I need to know if there's suddenly a lien about to be put on the house because you're not paying something. I need to know it because I gave you the money to pay it. And he's like, now this was coming from my dad, from my mom, who said my brother said this, that every woman needs to have her own house. And I'm like, I'm looking at my dad, I'm like, she ain't gonna have a house for more than a couple of months. That fucker's going to auction. Like, it's in foreclosure. They're gonna kick you guys out soon. It's, the paperwork's in progress. Like, you can't stay there. So my brother, Mr. Moneybags, half brother, doesn't help them pull the house out of foreclosure, but tries to fix it up so she has somewhere nice to stay. And I'm like, what is the logic behind this? Because they're gonna get thrown out soon. Like, any day, this eviction notice could come. What are you doing? The only thing I can think of was that my mom didn't actually tell him what was going on. And my mom's good at this, okay? She's very good at not being 100%... Oh, shit. That opened. Pencil shapings. That's okay. It'll brush off. My mom's very good at not being 100% truthful about important things happening. Okay? So I don't know if she told my brother that the house was actually in foreclosure. So my mom's a very interesting person. She somehow was like in my dad's ear, and she somehow got in the other half-sibling's head. I didn't even know they were speaking. I don't know why they were speaking, but apparently they were. He was more willing to call my mom and unsolicited, and yet throw a fit when I ask him to keep an eye on our father. He has no ties to my mother whatsoever, aside from her being his stepmom. That's it. But he was calling her like every day, apparently, I found out. Just about. And they were just chatting it on up like they were the best of friends. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. What is going on? Now, this sibling I don't trust with a 10-foot pole because he did some shady, janky shit when my grandmother died. Where he kept trying to say, you know, he wasn't visiting her, and then he kind of suddenly started visiting her every day when she was apparently not doing well, and she wasn't letting on that she wasn't doing well, and we couldn't get a hold of her, so my uncle and my dad had gone over to the house to check on her, couldn't get in, they had to break in, and they had found her deceased in the house in a very odd manner. But nobody could have broken to do it the way the house was locked. Like, the way the house was locked, it had to be done from the inside. So, she obviously wasn't in her right mental state at the time. But this sibling showed up shortly thereafter and was like, oh, well, I have the copy of the will. She changed her will. And my uncle and my dad looked at him and they're like, come again? And they're like, well, she changed her will, like, within the past, you know, month, and it has me as the executor. And my dad and uncle are like, no. And he's like, yeah, I have it right here. She signed it and she made me the executor and everything's coming to me. And my dad and uncle are like, no, that's not the will. And he's like, what do you mean that's not the will? It's right here or something, or I have it. And my dad and uncle went into her room, and she had this huge ass safe from when they used to run a business. And they had the combination. All right, you have a good night, Zorts. Try to stay cool. And they went into her closet where they knew the safe was. They put the combination in. And they're like, this is the will. And it has me and your uncle as the executors. F off. So he tried to pull some janky shit when she wasn't in her right mind and tried to get her to sign a second will. That pulled some janky ass shit. So I've always been kinda leery about dealing with him. And I never really fully trusted him. And apparently he didn't know about this other will's existence that was notarized and everything and stuff. But, so I didn't trust him. And then he's talking to my mom, and I'm like, who are you? And what are you doing? And I'm not up there, so I don't know everything that's going on, right? My dad will occasionally, I would try to call, you know, well, while he was still up there, I would try to call, and he would tell me some things when she wasn't around. But if she was around, he couldn't tell me anything. And you could tell that the tone in his voice was different. And, it was very odd. But somehow, between my mother and this half-sibling, they talked him into going back to New Jersey. And I'm like, really? I was like, why? You don't really want to go back up there. You're happy you're here. And I was like, where are you going to live? Where are you going to live? I was like, she can move down here. I was like, you got nowhere to go up there. I was like, you're going to move back and you're going to end up getting thrown out of the house in like a month or 2 months. Y'all need to figure out what you're doing before you go back up there. He goes, I know, I've been talking to her. I've been trying to hammer this into her head. I was like, well, Russell and I aren't moving you back up there because this is a bad idea. And we don't think it's good. And he's like, oh no, your brother's coming to move me up. And I was like, what? But he was in a rush because he had to get back to work, so he drove almost straight through. I think they stopped one night. And we stopped like 2 or 3 nights because my dad has blood clot issues in his legs, and so we made sure that we were stopping like every 2 hours so that he could get out of the car and walk around so he wasn't sitting him up. Like, we were making sure that he was being fucking moved halfway across the country in the best way possible. And here this fucker packed him into his SUV and drove like straight through for like 18 hours, only stopping like twice to get gas, and they didn't really get out of the car. And I'm like, really? Right. Classy. I don't know why I was surprised, but I was not here when he moved my dad out because I did not want to see him because he was bad-mouthing me, my husband, and where we lived because it wasn't up to his money standards and wasn't a grand palace, and thought because we had pets it was like the dirtiest place ever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, right. I was like, I can't be here because I'm gonna go off and get in his face. It's not gonna be pretty. I can't be here. So I went somewhere while they were packing up my dad. I said goodbye to him before he left, and then we took me somewhere, and I was hanging out at a park for a couple of hours because I didn't trust myself to not cause a problem. And that was that. And don't you know, within 6 months of him going back, they got the eviction notice. My mom would not be cooperative in trying to find someplace else to go. There was always a problem with every place, and my dad's like, look, our backs are against the wall. We don't have much time. We're gonna at least have to go somewhere temporarily until something else better comes along. But, you know, we can't be picky, choosy. We don't have time. And a lot of the places had waiting lists. They were on a restricted income. Rent was getting ridiculous up there. He finally managed to get into the place, a studio apartment from the people that we had rented from eons before for like 10 years. So they were familiar with us. They knew us. They knew we were decent renters. But it was a studio because she didn't have a 1-bedroom available. And she's like, this is for one person only. And if I find out that there's more than one person in here, then I'm going to have to evict you. And he's like, no, I understand. But he also got on the waiting list for a 1-bedroom. Shortly after he got into the 1-bedroom, I don't think he was there quite a year, or maybe it was coming up on a year. Things went south again with my mom because she wasn't getting her way, and she went crazy again, and that's the mild way I'm going to put that. We ended up having to go back to New Jersey and move my dad back down to Arkansas a second time. So that was not fun. And so we had stayed there. Oh yeah, getting back to the reason. We'd stayed there one night while we were helping him move because he didn't have a car. So he couldn't get the stuff that he needed to ship back to our house, to the post office. So we were there boxing up his shit, helping him figure out what would fit in our car and what would not fit in our car. And we were doing runs to the post office and, you know, helping him clean and get everything together and make sure that it was presentable for the landlady and everything. And, you know, doing his change of address stuff at the post office for him, and, you know, just making sure that everything was sorted, you know, helping him clean out the fridge and all. And we were there one night, and then the next day I was hot. I was feeling kind of shitty because I was so hot. And we were on an air mattress because it was either that or the floor. And Russell had a bad night sleeping on the air mattress. So did I. And we were just like up half the night because we were just hot and sweaty. And we were like, we're going to have to get a hotel. So there was a Holiday Inn like 5 minutes from his apartment. So we ended up doing that. I think my dad might have paid for that. He's like, no. He's like, no, that's fine. But another reason for that was that my mom started getting extra crazy. And I was refusing to talk to her because of all of the bullshit that had been going on leading up to us coming back, driving 1,200 miles one way to come get him and then drive another 1,200 miles back. Because there had been some other shit going on that we really needed to be home to deal with. Russell's grandmother had recently passed away, and, you know, we had other things going on. And so since we had to drive up to New Jersey to help my dad, Russell's mother had to be at our house that we were living in with her to keep an eye on the dogs because we couldn't bring the dogs with us because there wasn't room and they're a pain in the ass to travel with. And then hotel fees and everything for them, they make life more difficult to travel with. I love them, but they don't travel well. And so she was tied up having to be here at the house to keep an eye on them, and she couldn't be doing what she needed to do. And I was just mad. I was just mad at everybody, and I was really mad at my mom. And my mom can be crazy. Sorry, I'm talking low. She lives with us now. That's a whole other long ass story, but she lives with us now. So I know the kind of crazy she can be, and I kind of knew what she was capable of. Mostly shouting and yelling. She was never really the physical type, and to be perfectly honest, she was so unsteady on her feet I could take her if I had to. But I didn't want it to come to that, and I was not in a mental place where I wanted to deal with the screaming and the shouting, because what I was hearing secondhand was bad enough, and it was already had me on edge. I didn't want to deal with it, and so it got to the point, like, our last 2 days up there, I didn't leave the hotel. The husband was helping my dad deal with stuff, because the way my mom was calling and going off on my dad, it sounded like she was just going to show up at his apartment, and I'm like, oh, we're not causing a scene. A scene will be had if she showed up, and the other people that lived there would probably call the cops, just so that they didn't have to deal with this shit. And I'm like, no, we're not causing a scene. We're not having a screaming match here, of all places. And I'm not dealing with you. I am not giving you access to me. You're gonna have to cope. I'm not speaking to you right now. I don't want to speak to you right now. I can't handle dealing with you right now. I can't. I'm mad. If we both see each other while we're mad, we're gonna say shit that we probably shouldn't say. Maybe it should have been said. I don't know. But we're not gonna go there. And so I was afraid that she would just show up, because she's crazy like that with no warning, and I didn't want to be caught there. Because I didn't know what she was gonna do. So Russell and I decided that it would be better if I just stay at the hotel. We had gone to, it was only for like a day and a half, really, that I had to be alone, while he was helping my dad finish up. We'd like run to the craft store or something. I grabbed a coloring book and some pencils or something, so I could entertain myself. Plus, there was TV. So, I mean, and I had some snacks. So, I felt bad that he ended up doing what was left that needed to be done. But it was better that I be hidden, because we didn't know. And we didn't want problems so close to getting out of there unscathed. So, it's like, nope. Because, my mom can be very mentally a lot to deal with. And, I doubt my dad was telling stories and making shit up to tell me, because his demeanor would change entirely when she was around. Like, he just, tried to keep his head down and not piss her off, at that point. But, he couldn't tell me all of the things that were going on up there, because she's very much, you can't tell anybody kind of person. Like, when the one half sibling passed away that I actually had some sort of relationship with, she's like, you can't talk to anybody about this, blah, 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 because it was extenuating circumstances. He died of a drug overdose. My mom will not admit to that. She's like, no, he died of heart failure. Don't tell people he died of an overdose. I was like, the overdose led to the heart failure. It happens. It's not... I think she felt like it reflected on her as a parent. But, you can't control your kids, what they're gonna do. But, it was a very sore spot with her. So it's like, you can't talk to anybody, nobody can know about this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's not healthy. People need to talk to people. But, so yeah, we had to move my dad twice. Moving my dad is not easy. It's really not. I was like, you're not moving back up here again, because the husband and wife moving service, this is their last moving thing. I mean, he paid for everything, so I can't really bitch. But it was a lot. It was a lot. And then we ended up having to move my mom in with us. Like I said, that's a whole nother long ass story. We're not going to go into that today. But, yeah, it was... My life is chaotic at times. Very, very chaotic. I'd rather it not be quite so chaotic. I would like to just, you know, live with my animals. And just, you know, not have to deal with other people's bullshit that I keep getting dragged into. That's all I want. I have enough of my own bullshit to deal with. I don't need anybody else's. I can tell you that right now. Like, I don't... Like, I'm not making this shit up. Like, this... I don't know. Like, do other people have shit like this that happen constantly? Would they be truthful if they did? Like, would they even talk about it? I don't know. I need to talk about this shit, because that's the only way I can process it. Like what the hell is this? Like, just no. Just stop with your crazy ass. Alright, I know I'm kind of coming off the edge here, but I'm trying to cover up the edge. We might have to trim up this bottom edge a little bit here. So it's probably going to be a little wobbly when we're all said and done. But that's kind of the nature of it as we get back to doing what we're supposed to be doing. Alright, so it's very easy to get this felt stretched out of shape. For some reason, it's very easy to do that. Alright, I'm just checking for any gaps that are blatantly obvious. Oh, right, I did want to fix this one thing up here before we get too much further. It's super, super minor. But I'm seeing it. And it's one of those things that when you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. And it drives me crazy. And I'm just gonna keep staring at it. Now I'm probably not even going into my felt base here. Probably going just directly into the pad. We'll find out in a second when I go to pull this up. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. Okay. There we go. That's better. I don't have that orange gap there staring at me. Okay, so we're all done with black. For now. For now. And we've got a little bit of orange fuzzes kind of poking through in spots. Not like gaps, but just like little fuzzies. Those can just kind of get brushed off. Trying to make sure I had the right color in my hand for a second. I thought I didn't. I was like, oh wait. We're good. We're good. Alright. So I'm just gonna kind of snake this. This might be a little thick, but it should be okay. So we're gonna work on getting this tapped into here. So I'm gonna need to adjust this side over here just a little bit. I think I want to get a little bit more blue in that area. So we're doing this lighter color blue. It's still dark, right? It's still our dark blue. but just so we can kind of start working in our tones for our lighter sections of water. As we go forward here. You can see where, as we're stabbing and pushing the yarn fiber through the felt, it's pulling the felt fibers in. So I mean, that's why I was saying your base is gonna get a little misshapen. It might be better to try to go like your base to be a little bit bigger than what your piece actually is gonna be. So that way you can trim the edges up a little bit straighter if it really bothers you to have them wobbly. But if it's going to be in a frame, then the wobbly edge doesn't matter quite so much, because the frame or a mat can hide the wobbly edge. You don't have to mat it. That is an option, but you don't have to. Crunch, 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 crunch. So I use a felt needle felting mat. I don't think it was wool. I think it was felt. I got it off Amazon. All this stuff, except for the yarn, came off Amazon. So the tools, the pad, the felt squares, because, you know, we were doing Christmas shopping, so it was just easier than trying to get out to the store and try to find everything. And so, you know, Amazon had what we were looking for. We didn't have to try to go to 15 different stores. But yeah, I used like this, I think it's a felt mat, I don't think it's wool. There was a picture of a sheep on the label. I like this better than the foam mats that you'll see. Now, not all of the foam mats might be scritchy, but, and I say scritchy and a lot of people are probably like, what the fuck is scritchy? Have you ever been in a craft store and walked down the aisle where all of the styrofoam sheets and the styrofoam balls and shapes are and everything? If you've ever rubbed them together, that's what scritchy is. It's this weird, harsh, not really nails on chalkboard, but close kind of noise. The toolkit I got came with a foam pad. I can demonstrate what scritchy is. You're gonna want to watch your earbuds for those that are using them, or headphones. Might want to turn the volume down a little bit. So in 3, 2, 1. Okay, you're good now. We're gonna put that away. It's not as scritchy as styrofoam against styrofoam, but it does something to the bottom of my ears that's unpleasant. So I don't like using the foam pads. Plus your foam pads are gonna break down a lot faster. So you're gonna be replacing them a lot more often. Because, you know, it is just foam. But since I'm using a felted mat, and I think there's what they call vegetable material, I don't know what that necessarily means, in between the layers just to give it some stiffness. And yeah, I did see some of it come out of the mat as I was felting. It never broke a needle though, and this was still a better option for me sound-wise because my ears are sound sensitive. This still works out better for me. So it might take you a little bit to find a padding to put under your project that you're okay with. Some people use regular sheets of styrofoam. Some people use like that weird foam that came with my toolkit that has sort of like a plastic sheeting over it. Some people use pieces of wall house insulation, like the sheets of it. Don't get the loose stuff. They'll use like the foam house insulation sheets, because then they can cut it down to whatever size they want. But I've had this since December, this mat, and we're still going strong. I mean, we did that other one on there. I mean, yeah, you can definitely see our yarn fiber that's worked into the mat. It used to be this color. So we've definitely added to its shading, as it were. But, you know, that's fine. Who cares, right? It's just your base. You're just your protector. It keeps your needle from breaking. Because, I mean, you can't really go through the your base on a hard surface. The needle doesn't go in far enough. You need the needle to be able to sink through to take the fiber with it, to marry all of your layers together. Think kind of like what was it? I don't know if people are going to understand what I'm about to say. It was kind of an obscure thing that not everybody did. Is anybody familiar with it? It kind of started out as infomercial-y, and I don't know if it's still a thing. It might still be a thing. It was punch art or something like that, where you had this weird ass needle that you kind of had to thread either embroidery thread or yarn through, and you had like a piece of linen or something on an embroidery hoop, and you had to like punch through the fabric and lift it up but not all the way off, and like you had to like just lift the needle off, like out of the fabric, and then slide over next to it and like do another one, kind of like similar to like how the rug tufting machines work, but not exactly. Who's outside?
I have no idea.
I hope that dog ain't back. Hopefully it's just the outside cat. But yeah, it's kind of similar to that, where you're pushing all of the fibers through. It's different, but it's kind of at least the same sort of action. So you need to make sure that the needle goes all the way through the base that you're working on. And there's little tiny notches carved into the needle or cut into the needle that help grab the fibers and shove it through, which is why you want protection on your fingers that are near the needles, because it's gonna hurt going in your hand if you miss, but it's really gonna hurt coming out because of all those notches. Alright, grab a bit more here. Whoop. That's why I tend to do that, so it doesn't go rolling off into the great unknown. Alright, and you can trim your fiber pieces to fit the size and shape that you're looking for. You don't even have to roll it into a little snaky thingy. That's just what I do, just to kind of get it to cooperate. Kitty, stop. the one cat, when he sees something outside that annoys him, will dig at either the glass on our front door, or will dig at the glass on the window now that he can sit next to the window and look out of it. But it's only those two surfaces. He won't dig at the other window, which I find fascinating. And he's also the one that, well, one of the ones that meows constantly. So you might hear some scritching from him and his nails on the glass. Because that's how Mr. Peabody rolls, apparently. He acts like he's such a badass. But if he ever was actually outside face to face with one of the cats that comes and visits our front porch, I'm pretty sure he would lose in like 5 seconds. He is not the shit that he seems to think he is. No, he's just gonna be a brat. That's all there is to it. We'll just have to ignore him the best we can. Sometimes he can be ignored. Other times he'll be sitting in my parents' bedroom window when they have the window open, and we'll be standing on the porch, and we'll be standing out there for like a half an hour, and he will meow the entire half an hour without pause at us through the window. And I'm like, just stop, please. Give the meower a rest. But nope. The meower will never rest with that one. So I just have some little gaps around this one section here I'm trying to fill in. His meow's not as obnoxious as one of the other cats though, so he's a lot easier to tune out over time when need be. But he's sitting right next to my husband, so he's driving Russell to madness because he's not stopping. What'd you do?
I'm giving him cuddles.
Oh.
You're mine now.
You're giving him the attention that he seemed to be craving.
It's a struggle cuddle.
Oh, that cat. Like,
he's just laying there on my arm.
We adopted him, so we don't really understand his personality quirks per se. They're just there. I don't know if he's always been like this, or if this was behavior learned from whatever situation he had previously been in. They didn't seem to have a whole lot of information to give us, so I don't know if he was found on the street or if he was relinquished with no info.
He was definitely someone's cat.
But...
and considering how chill he is and how relatively inactive he was when we got him, we assumed it was someone older.
Yeah, I mean, maybe previous owner passed away or something, or they couldn't care for him anymore. I mean, he wasn't that old when we got him. I think he was 1.5 years, but...
no, let's not knock that all over the place.
But Peaput is a destructive tornado. He has to destroy everything and knock everything off of everywhere and bodily do so. He'll just sit in the hallway and meow at the wall. He'll get in the tub and meow at the wall of the tub. I'm like, what are you doing? He doesn't like water, so that's not it. It's not like he wants the water turned on. He'll just be sitting there meowing at the wall, and I'm like, really? But, the newest cat gives him a run for his money. Last night they were all tearing through here after Russell went to bed. I was sitting here trying to get some stuff done. And they were just all running through the house. Somebody brushed by my leg, and I wasn't sure if this was a merry romp or if someone was mad at someone. and we were not happy. So I had to get up and see what the heck was going on. But it was the newer cat giving one of our other cats that can be a bit of a dick a run for his money. So, I mean, I'm okay with her giving him some shit, so, because he gives quite a bit of it, so. Oh, now you're gonna get the dog all fussy. Dog might bark, so earbud warning now. He has a little bit of a shrill bark at times. We try not to let him get too barky. And he's usually pretty good about being barky. But yeah, Mr. Peabody, you can be petting him, and when you've finished petting him for a minute, the second you either go to turn away from him or take your arm away from him, he will swing at you, nails out. So I don't know what is the deal with all the animals today. Could have been that, what, lunar eclipse that was last night or something? Or is it tonight? I don't know. We had storms and clouds last night, so we couldn't have seen it even if we wanted to. If it was last night, it might be tonight. I don't know. I get confused when they start talking about certain dates and stuff. He probably needs a trim anyway because of his hot spots.
Well, I just started scratching his back,
Mm-hmm.
and he started kick scratching one of the bad areas. So maybe he just can't reach it. I don't know. But you're gonna get a trim tonight. Yeah. Yeah, you are.
It's been getting hot, so
Do you need the peepees?
he probably...
Okay.
His fur is not that thick, but
What about you, Moose? You got peepees?
it's thick, but it's not. It's not like a double coat or anything, but during the summer we usually have to keep his fur pretty much in like a puppy coat cut. Keep it pretty buzzed down, or else he starts biting and scratching. And he doesn't have fleas. We've looked. We keep looking. He might be getting fussy because the cat's outside, though. Something's outside, because Peabut wants whatever it is very badly. And I don't have the camera up, so I don't know what it is. I just hope it's not that big dog that came back.
I'm pretty sure it's not the big dog here.
Because Zuzu's not going to take kindly to Big Dog. It's probably Nom Noms,
Or PC.
the cat that's eating us out of house and home. Who wants to come in so badly, and yet we can't let him come in. Mostly because of how badly Peabut wants him, and is trying to dig through the glass to get him. And it's funny, too, because the couple of times that the outdoor cat came up to our screen door, and we had our big door open, so the two cats were nose to nose through the screen. Peabut was just chilling. He wasn't swishy tail with him. He wasn't growling at him. They were just sitting there. But we have another male cat that wanders through our front porch from time to time, and those two outdoor cats do not like each other. They get downright into howling, angry cat voices and charging at each other and stuff, so I'm a little nervous to let this particular cat in the house of cats that, we have 3 male cats in this house. I mean, they're fixed, but, I mean, this one would obviously have to be vetted and fixed himself, but if we didn't have any other cats, I'd probably be a little more willing to do so, but I don't know how he's gonna behave in a house situation.
Zuzu, in! Drop it!
What?
I don't know. Zuzu, drop. What did you eat?
What did he eat?
He grabbed something. I think he grabbed a.
There might have been a piece of chicken nugget on the porch.
In which case, if he gets sick later, we know why. That's right. You tell your brother. You tell your brother.
So was it Num Nums out there?
Yeah.
For some reason, we are like loose animal central, and all of the animals in this town have to come to our house. Oh goodness, the husband opened the front door. And now I feel like I'm gonna start sneezing again. Oh my god. Wow. It's really windy out. There is something around our house this particular spring that is trying to kill me. I don't know what it is, but my allergies are pissed. They were not this bad last year, so I don't know what is going on. I don't know if it's just been more windy or what. Usually it's the hay fields that I can't handle very well, but I don't know what it is this time. This seems excessive for it to be just the hay fields, unless more people are growing hay. I mean, maybe, possibly. We are in like a farming community area. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, get some local honey. I don't like the taste of the local honey. And I tried that once and it really didn't do anything. Like not like one time, but... Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. No, maybe not. Possible sneeze alert. I don't have a quick mute button on my mic, so... And I can't get to my keyboard to do it quickly either, so... I know I could make a shortcut for it, but... My keyboard is on a keyboard tray under my desk, and with these little finger protectors on, it's hard to get to the keys to type on the proper keys. The sensation keeps like bubbling up, and then it's like backing off. So I don't know if I'm actually gonna sneeze or not. But no, I've tried like one season, one spring, summer, I tried to do the local honey thing. It didn't work for me. Oh my goodness. Usually I get a real bad head cold. I don't really think it's sinus infection. It could be, but it always clears up on its own. When my allergies go into overload. And it's usually pretty bad. I'll like lose my voice for like a week. Like straight up. Can't hardly talk. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. We will see. I didn't have to deal with it last year. And I think the last time I had it, our internet was weird and I couldn't stream. Oh, I wish I would just sneeze and get it over with. The weird pre-sneeze burning sensation is terrible. Oh. I hate that feeling. Okay. So we have just a little bit more of our blue to get through here. Pardon me one moment. Sorry for the snuffles. It's snuffle time of the year, more so than ever. Alright. So I think in this one, maybe in here, I just kind of want to overlap it just a little bit so we don't have quite so harsh of a gap between where the two colors are meeting. You can or can't do this. Do what you want. It's your art if you're attempting it. It's totally up to you. I'm kind of amazed I'm still on the second needle. that I've ever used out of this kit, considering the amount of time that we've been stabbing things. Because the only reason I had to switch needles was that I broke the original one that came with the kit, and the kit does have quite a good number of replacement needles. There's also some different gauges. I'm on a small gauge. Did Num Num still have food outside?
Yes.
Okay, so Peabut, you need to chill, buddy. We know Num Nums is there. And that's what we named him, because all he does is eat. Although he does like to hang out with us for a little bit. He'll have food down and he'll just be wanting to chill. He'll be rolling all over our feet. And kind of wanting pets and things. Alright, so again, you don't have to do the sneaky thing. I just do the sneaky thing to make my life a little bit easier. Kind of gets the fibers a little more cooperative for me. And it just works out better for me. Alright, that should finish filling in that gap there. Okay. Alright, so give me 1 second. I have got to fully blow my nose this time. I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, damn it. Sorry. Of course I sneeze after I unmute my mic. Of course. Okay, so I've got another little gap right down in there that I want to deal with. Okay. So I actually see another gap kind of over here. So I'm just gonna, it's a minor one, I'm just gonna kind of cover that up just a little. Oh my goodness, I'm like, oh, my nose is running like crazy all of a sudden. Let me just quick blow my nose. Blow my nose, immediately sneeze, and then it's like, oh, now I feel kind of stuffy. Oh, this is a constant battle. We are taking some Benadryl tonight, friends, because I don't have to be up tomorrow. Oh shit, I do have to be up tomorrow. No, that's not gonna work. Monday night, I can have Benadryl. And I know people are gonna be like, just take the non-drowsy, you're fine. That is the non-drowsy that I take, and it still wipes me the fuck out. So. Ugh. I wasn't able to take it all weekend because I was on the podcast yesterday and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't quite too muddled, more than normal. And I had to be up by a certain time. And then the couple days before, I had my own streams, and you know, tomorrow we have to go to the store. And I need to function because I don't know if the husband can lift anything yet. He had to have emergency dental surgery last Tuesday, or this past Tuesday. It wasn't an option. he had a broken tooth that was pushing on another tooth that was exposing a root, so it had to happen. He was in quite a fair amount of pain. So that was like, nope, this has to happen. And they told him he couldn't lift anything for a few days. He couldn't do anything strenuous, and we have to get several cases of water and a couple cases of soda, and we have to do our heavy lifting stuff and cat litter and cat food, and so I might have to be doing that tomorrow. Hopefully my back holds out, because I had hurt my back for like a month. I was dealing with a sciatic issue, which was not fun at all. Not at all, friends. Let me tell you. And I know I don't have COVID because I've been sneezing like this for like 2 months now, a month and a half. It started right before I hurt my back, and then it was continuing while I was kind of out of commission for almost a month, where I could hardly move. That was painful for like a good 3 weeks or so. I'm still a little owie and pinchy, but nothing like it was. Absolutely nowhere near the level that it had been. So I'm glad that finally started behaving. Getting out of bed's still a little difficult. We have a squishy foam mattress. While I enjoy not having springs poking me in my ribs while I'm trying to sleep, it's really difficult to get in and out of for me at times, especially when my back is messed up, because this particular foam mattress, it's an off-brand that we got from our local furniture store. You kind of like sink into it, and when Russell and I are both in bed together, we kind of both like roll to the middle. I'm thinking that the foam mattresses or this particular foam mattress was not made for people of our weight class, shall we say. So it's kind of like a turtle on your back sometimes, for me at least, when I'm trying to get out of bed. Especially when one of the dogs kind of has my one side blocked off. You okay?
Yeah.
Oh, you had to...
Had peanut butter on bread for the pill.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he's still on antibiotics. They didn't say his mouth was infected, but they gave him antibiotics to take anyway. I guess they thought it would because they had to take out 2 teeth and it was quite a large hole. But he didn't seem to get dry socket, so yay. We were very cautious and careful about that. And they were super great with him and his anxiety. And they were able to remove both teeth while he was there. He hadn't gone there under the assumption that they were doing anything today. He just kind of got in there to see what was going on. And they're like, okay, well, this has to happen. And, oh, I can't remember the name of the place. It was something to do with the University of Arkansas. But they dealt with university students. And I think the dentist's name was Dr. McQueen, I believe. I can't remember the name of the place. It was some kind of like dental clinic thing. Oh, that little spot is being very, very stubborn. About getting filled in. And sometimes you'll have a stubborn spot. And I'm probably fussing over a section that might get covered up with something else, so, you know, that happens. But I haven't gone that far into the tutorial. I did once, but it's been a while since I've seen it in full, so I don't really remember what's coming next. Oh goodness. Okay. All right. We'll get that all tucked into there. Now, you don't have to necessarily pull your piece up every time you're done stabbing in a section of, or a clump of fiber. I do, because it's on this felt pad, and one tiny, like 4x4 square I had put on here, and was working on it, but I think it was like my first project. It's probably a little dusty because of where it's been sitting, but this was the first thing I had attempted to do, right? And I had some stencils, so I was using stencils. It's a little extra fuzzy because it was actually from roving, and I was still finding my footing with it, but I hadn't been peeling it up every so often, and I was like, oh, this is fine. And then when I was done, I went to pull it up, and it was like stuck. It wouldn't come up. I had pretty much felted it to the pad, and I was like, oh no. So if you're on a piece of foam, it might come up a little bit easier maybe, but I was like, oh dear, this doesn't want to come off. It was definitely attached to the pad, so I had to very gently and very carefully work on peeling it up. And as I did, the one side, you could definitely tell the side that I was using as my primary handhold to try to pull it up, because that side got like kind of stretched out, and I was like, oh, that's a good thing we're cutting this down in size, but it was definitely an adventure getting it off of the pad. So that's why I'm kind of obsessive about peeling stuff up every so often, because if I go too far, then it doesn't want to lift up at all for me. But that's okay, because we know how to handle that now, and it's all good. All right. So I know it's a little bit boring when we're filling in the background colors, but you know, it needs to get done. And I figured we might as well do that together. It gives us time to chat. And you know, tell stories and find out more about each other and all that stuff. Alright. And the yarn that I showed you, I haven't had to replace any of my colors yet, and we've like barely made a dent into our colors. So definitely getting our $1.99 per color sale price worth out of that yarn. Hopefully I won't run out of a color mid-project, because, you know, then a dye lot could be a slight issue, but I don't foresee that being that big of a deal. Like, I should be able to gauge when it gets down to that point if I'm gonna have enough to cover what I'm doing. If I'm not, then I'll just have to hold that for a separate project and just grab a new ball and start from there. Oh my goodness, I can't believe how much my nose is now running. He's just being
all kinds of shit today, aren't you, buddy?
My goodness.
All kinds of shit today.
My goodness. He's being feisty today. I mean, it is pretty windy out.
Oh my goodness, that hurt.
And I was tempted when I'd stepped outside and felt how cool it was at the moment to turn the air off, but the way I feel right now, it might be better that the air conditioner's on. I might not be able to stop sneezing if we do turn it off for a little bit. Like I said, he opened the door and all of a sudden, oh my. Just everything started, the eyes started burning, the sneezing wanted to happen, the eyes were watering, all of it. But we'll see. If I go to bed early enough tonight, I might be able to take something, but if not, then we'll have to wait till Monday night. Alright, so we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. So as you go, you're gonna see that it's gonna, like, if you don't anchor down a section over here as you go, you're gonna see like your giant poof of fluff slowly get dragged across what you're working on as your base is kind of eating all of the fiber. Kind of like how you can see this bottom edge getting sucked in here from the base itself. I'll show you what I mean more in a moment here. It didn't fully do it on this piece because I kind of tacked a small section down. Alright, so let me grab a bit more fluff. I might have to make some more of this fluff. We'll see. We'll see. So you can kind of see it right here. I'm gonna lay that down and tack that there, so you can see how far out this strand is going to here. See it running that far out. And then as we start stabbing it in here, it's just kind of slowly being eaten up and pulled in. So you might need more than you think you do. That's sort of why I just kind of kept going prepping yarn until I had like a sandwich Ziploc bag size full of fluff, and I'm like, well, that should at least get us through one session, right? So I've got all these Ziploc bags hanging behind me that you guys can't see in all of our colors that I had pre-prepped. Just so we didn't have to stop in the middle and deal with that. Because it's a lot easier just to have it all ready to go. At least I find it's a bit easier that way. All right. So let's grab a bit more fluffy stuff. And the edges, the top and bottom edges, since I don't have any extra wiggle room, are always a little bit more touchy to try to get all the way up to the edge without completely attaching to the pad underneath of it and going too far off. But I mean, we can always clean it up with the scissors when we get done and we do our trimming. And like I said, I can't remember if there's supposed to be a beach down here or not. I mean, I guess I should probably scan through the tutorial real quick so I know how much I need to fuss down here. But, alright, so we're at the 440 mark now. So that's what we're working on getting towards. Okay, so he kinda smooths that out. Oh, we're gonna be doing waves too, okay. Okay, so there is some sort of beach down here, but it doesn't, I guess it kind of goes, oh, that's an ad. Go away, ad. So, I mean, this one's gonna be a bit of a hot mess at the bottom, shall we say. When we get there. Alright. Alright, that's about where we left off. I mean, we have our water horizon-ish line in there already. So that's something. That is something. No, Fuzz. You don't live... You're the wrong Fuzz. You're very much the wrong Fuzz. Alright. So we need to fuss a little bit down here. Because while there's technically beach, it's wet beach, so it's not gonna be that big of a color difference, shall we say. And we're gonna have to try to pull off some reflections. This one actually got a heck of a lot harder to do this way than I was thinking it was gonna be. So this could be a hot disaster, but we're gonna keep going. We're gonna try. Right? We don't know if we can do unless we try it. We've come this far. We're not turning back now. So that would just be a waste of art supplies. We have to at least see it through. After coming this far. And they all can't be winners, right? You know, I mean, I know a lot of people see YouTube videos of paintings, like speed paintings, and even like their favorite art vloggers and stuff, you know, come up with, they're putting out these videos and everything they touch looks super freaking awesome. You guys gotta remember, for every awesome piece you see, there might be 10 that you don't, that just look terrible, that just didn't work out, that just the concept versus the materials used, you know, just they didn't mesh. You know, they're editing, they can redo stuff, they can start over, if it's not a live stream. And you know, so I even have trouble with this. We can't be afraid of our art supplies, and we can't be afraid to mess up. That's part of it. You're not gonna have a knockout piece every time. Sometimes stuff's just not gonna turn out the way you're envisioning it. And you might hate it and somebody else might love it, so keep going. If only to get the practice in, right? Because then you'll learn, okay, maybe I should do it this way next time. You know? Try to make it, at the very least, a learning experience of, okay, what can I do differently? Oh, Flamingo! Oh, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. I mean, I suffer from that too. I'm like, oh, I'm so afraid to mess up. You know, it's not gonna look good, and it's like, and then, you know, you're fretting and stuff. We have to let that fear of failure go. You also need a needle felt, and love that you're felting to Bob Ross. So, well, thank you. We're trying to felt along with Bob Ross. We're trying. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The first tutorial that we did from season 3 worked out pretty well. It worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how that one came out. There was a lot of nerves with it, but, you know, this was season 3, episode 1. What was this one called? I think Mountain Retreat. So, I mean, it didn't come out half bad for it being needle felted. I mean, it came out pretty decent. I think so. I mean, you know, we're not working with paint, so we can't magic the color shading and everything together like you can with paint. We kind of have to to layer it in. I mean, you can kind of blend with this, but it's not like paint blending where you get a whole new color. Like, you'll still see the different shades of color in there. So it's not quite the same as paint blending. So we kind of have to think a little bit, and we might have to add a little more different layers of colors, shall we say. That cat is obsessing.
You win. I can't have a window. I can't have a window. You win. Okay?
It doesn't matter. He goes behind the curtain and digs at the oh, thank you. Appreciate that very much. The cat has driven him insane digging at the window that he had to close the curtain. Except the joke's on the husband, because the cat just goes behind the curtain and does it anyway, because he does that to me when I'm trying to sleep. It could be like 5 in the morning.
Well, maybe the curtain will muffle his ass a little.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Oh.
Hey.
He's just being a bit of a brat. He's always been a bit of a brat, that particular cat. He's bound and determined to get his way.
I can't pet you any harder.
But, yeah, the flamingo, we leaned hardcore into the flamingo. I've always had a love of flamingos. And when we first started the channel, we were kind of using a sock puppet that I had made as the channel mascot. So you might see that in some places still. Oh my god, that cat. He can be very loud when he wants to be. I'm not sure if my mic's picking him up. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But we kind of lead hard into the sock puppet that I had made for a while as the channel mascot. And, you know, we'd had that for a couple of years, and I was like, you know, I'm starting to lean more into my Mingo love, so let's just go for it. And between myself and the husband sitting down, I was finally able to explain what I wanted. So we've got some free follower flamingo emotes. We haven't done any sub flamingo emotes yet. I haven't really thought of what I might want. We might do a shrimp emote for the subs. We might figure out a different Mingo sub emote too. We'll think about it.
I didn't make a sub emote?
You made follower, you didn't do sub.
I thought I said them essentially the same.
Well, I wanted some that were different for...
Oh, yes, but in that particular case, I thought I had...
No, they were... It was all, I have one older subscriber Mingo one that's a different style. Yeah, so those are we did them kind of seasonal for the follower freebies. So we have a winter one with the scarf around the neck. We've got a springtime one with the flowers at the feet, our lawn flamingos. We have a summer one where there's a pool of water and the sunglasses chilling. And then we have a fall one that's kind of like a scarecrowy zombie stitched together sort of lawn flamingo with a pumpkin. And like the fall dead ground kind of thing happening there. So that's what we've got for that. We're a little slow to get stuff done because life and husband suffers from pretty bad anxiety and pretty bad depression, so it takes a while for us to get stuff done because sometimes life just gets in the way, but we get there eventually. We're just slow. We're just slow because there's other things that take a front seat at times for life and all. He also did our channel alerts, so we've got the raid alert that we saw earlier. We have the the follower and sub alert are the same. And I eventually want to try to work on getting an alert that pops up for when the channel is being hosted, but we just haven't had time to sit down to work on that because he's been busy with things, with his own stuff. So eventually we might get that. I kind of want like a flamingo and like a box of shrimp, or maybe popcorn shrimp or something, sitting next to them. We tried to do a GIF for the... We're not good at animating. Animating is not our wheelhouse.
I'm just having a problem with format at this point.
But we're trying to get the cheer and the tip emote to have shrimp raining down from the sky, because you know flamingos eat their curly shrimp and stuff. So we kind of got something to work there, but it was close to what we were looking for, but not exactly. But you know, we took it as a win for now until we can get our heads wrapped around what we need to do for that. Because I'm so busy, like I haven't really had time to try to dig into it, because I'm either doing stream prep for our WoW Challenges streams on Wednesdays right now. Soon I won't have to do that. Because we're nearing our goal completion on that. I only have 5 more classes left to level, and one of those 5 classes only has 2 levels left to go, so pretty soon we'll be down to 4. It is taking me a little bit longer than I anticipated, but, you know, life. Life happens, and best laid plans don't always work, but when we finish with that goal in WoW, I'm probably going to be taking a small break from showcasing that for a bit. And we'll either add in an extra art day, or we'll do an extra Planet Zoo day, since you guys seem to like me floundering around trying to build stuff. We could do that, or we could stick in a new game. I do have a game that I backed on Kickstarter that I'm supposed to get early access to. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to get beta, but I'm at least supposed to get some sort of early access to it. I can't remember what tier I was on. And they're still in alpha testing right now. But we will be adding that into the channel at some point, to at least take a look at it, because you know it's brand new. They're still developing it. I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it or not. It seems to be a little bit similar to Stardew Valley, but not exactly. So we'll take a look at that. And that's called Coral Island. Once that releases at a level that I can actually play it at. But yeah, so I mean, we might do a little bit more art on that one day that I get some more free time. But most of my week is taken up right now trying to get stream prep done for our WoW Challenges stream, because I'm playing the Bloodthirsty challenge from wowchallenges.com. The community is called WoW Challenges. They basically they have like an Iron Man challenge and stuff, where you know you try to make leveling stupidly harder with extra parameters. It's not traditional leveling, basically. And the challenge that I'm working on is a lot of grinding. So I try to get the characters that I'm working on within like a half an hour of leveling up before stream day. So that way we can see a few attempts to make it in one particular stream, because they take some time to grind to level. And 2 of them right now are taking about 6 to 10 hours each because of where they're at, so it's a little time consuming on the stream prep. But soon we will be done with that. And we will be able to move on to other things that I haven't decided what we're going to do yet. I mean, we could mess around with paint one day, or we could add an extra needle felting day. I haven't figured it out. It could just be a random day where we figure out what we're going to do. It could be working on scenario campaigns for Planet Zoo on a specific day, although we might be doing that on Thursdays once we're done with Parkitect, because we do the Parkitect on Thursday. Right now we're working through the campaigns, but I think when we get done with the campaigns we're going to take a break from Parkitect for a little bit. I also have No Place Like Home. We looked at that once when it was still early access. It has fully released now, and it seems like they've made quite a lot of changes. And the keybinds on that were a little messy for me because I tried to rebind everything in a order that worked for me. So while I kind of liked it, the keybinds were kind of a pain in how I had them set up, but that's more of a me thing than anything. Because I'm a bit of a pain when it comes to keybinds and what keys do what. I am a clicker when I play World of Warcraft. I'm not good with the A, S, D, W keys.
W-A-S-T, how do you keep doing that?
I'm dyslexic. It's the way it comes out. Leave me alone. Sorry, it's one of our little fake arguments that we have all the time. I am dyslexic, by the way. I'm not joking about that. I actually am. So, my one hand does not like doing the traditional movement keys in games. It's not like the traditional letter movement keys. So,
you little spaz.
I told you.
Relax.
And so I try to like rebind everything to like my arrow keys or around the arrow keys when possible, because it just works better for me and is less painful. So that game has a lot of different possible keybinds to it, but we're trying to make it work. We do need to get back into Minecraft too. I haven't had time to work on the demolition that needs to be done for that build. I still have the file, I just haven't had time to work on it. But the cat's like trying to go through the curtain, and now he's being more obnoxious about trying to see out of it now that it's closed, and he's like standing blocking the husband's one monitor, swishing his tail across his line of sight and stuff. You might need to put Cat TV back on for him. That might be why he's getting a little extra rambunctious, shall we say. Cat TV is what we call any live stream that we find on YouTube that has like bird feeders and stuff. And we had to build a monitor stand on the husband's desk and take like L bracket plates and attach this monitor stand to his desk, because we made the mistake of watching a bird feeder wildlife stream once, and the cats noticed, and we thought it was funny at first that they're like tapping the screen and tapping the bird on the screen and all, and we're like, oh, that's so cute. And we forgot and left the live stream up of this webcam on his one monitor, and we went for a walk. We came back from said walk and I couldn't open our door from like our bedroom has like a door, or the room we're using as our bedroom has a door that goes out onto our front porch. And I couldn't open the door enough to get in. And I'm like, what is going on? The door's unlocked. I can get it open like an inch, and it's not opening. Because the one side of the husband's desk was kind of near where the door jamb was, or the hinges were on the door. And I'm like, what is happening? Sorry, he's attacking my husband's monitor now. So, the husband went in a different door, and I finally managed to bodily shove myself through the door. And we turned around to figure out what the hell was going on. His monitor was on the floor behind our door. That's why we couldn't get in. It was jammed up. And I'm like, why is your monitor on the floor? Like, what? The monitor was okay. It wasn't damaged, but we were kind of dumbfounded. And we're like, how did the monitor get on the floor? You know, and we couldn't figure it out. And then when we got the monitor rehooked, we realized that the live stream was still up, and we're like, do you think the cats lunged at the monitor so hard that it fell off the stand? Yeah, that's what happened. So we had to take this monitor stand, L-bracket it to secure it to the desk surface. It was a shitty desk, so it was fine. We were okay with adding more holes to that desk. It was okay. And we had to take zip ties and drill holes in this monitor stand that we had to build, and zip tie the monitor base to this stand that we built. And to keep the cats from knocking the monitor completely off the desk so it didn't smash entirely. And the husband just put the one webcam on that we tend to frequent for them, and now he's distracted by the squirrels sitting in this feeder box, and he's trying to get the squirrels through the monitor screen. So at least that gives him something to get his excess energy out with, I suppose. And now I think he's walked away. I don't know where
he's laying there watching.
Oh, he's laying watching now? He's such a brat. I swear. Like, the dogs could care less about TV and stuff. Our dogs, they're not TV watchers. They don't seem to care so much.
They don't understand television.
I know some dogs you'll see videos of where they are watching TV, and seem to recognize, you know, what's going on, and they kind of get into it, or they like will bark at other dogs they see. Our guys don't really give a shit, or they just don't understand what's going on, and so it's kind of like a nothing to them. They're like, meh, whatever, crazy person. So we've tried to put like iPads on for like the you know, the YouTube channels that you'll see, like, oh, YouTube TV for dogs, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's see. And we did it like once, and they're like, meh. They didn't even really look at it. They're like, why are you shoving this thing in my face? But because we had it on the iPad down at their level so they could see it better, and they're just like, what? They just didn't care. So I'm like, okay. Well, I tried. I tried to give you some new entertainment. Especially for our gimpy dog that has some back issues from time to time. Or he doesn't really want to get up. Sometimes he'll get up willingly, but then other times he's like, no. He's like, not happening. So we try not to force him now that we know if that we know he's capable of getting up when he wants to. So, if he doesn't want to get up, then we don't force it. He's got some potty pads that he's pretty good about hitting. The other one, not so much. But that's what rug shampooers are for. But, you know, the one's pretty tidy to a degree when he's able to be, but there was like months where he just didn't want to get up. He was on like muscle relaxers and stuff. We weren't sure if he had tore something. They were saying, well, he needs an MRI, or he might need an MRI, and we're like, we don't have dog MRI kind of money. They were talking about us having to go to Oklahoma City to at least the one vet office, and I'm like, that's like a 4-hour drive one way. Are we sure about this? And I'm like, how much is this gonna cost? They never said how much it was gonna be. I don't know if it was like a reduced cost or free thing, because it was some kind of veterinary hospital. I think it was a teaching hospital. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. And we didn't have money to do that kind of surgery anyhow, and we didn't know if he really needed it. So we started out with just medication and just letting him dictate to us how things were going. And it took a few months. He was on muscle relaxers and anti-inflammatories for a couple of months, and pain medication, and then we started to wean him off the pain medication, and he's not on anything right now. And we weren't sure if he was still in pain to a degree and just wasn't showing us, but then he did have a bad day, and now we know what it looks like when he needs pain medication. Because he was all sorts of beside himself and couldn't get comfortable, and he kept coming back to us and like fix it, and we're like, we don't understand what's wrong. And we still had some of his pain medication left, so we finally figured out what we needed to do for him, and so now we know what to look for when he is having a particularly bad day. But he's been going out willingly now, after we forced the issue a couple of times, because we think he was afraid to go out on his leash because he was originally hurt when he was outside on his leash. So there was some mental blocks that we had to get through. And but we're doing better now, and he's still not his old self 100%. I don't think he ever will be, but he's probably about 85%, which was a hell of a lot more than we were expecting. We weren't expecting a good outcome, but he surprised us. It just took some time and some patience, as with all things, and they think he might have had a disc compress. You know, that does take some time to heal, definitely. But kind of nervous about surgery for him anyway, because he's not a young guy. They're either going to be 10 or 11 this September. I feel like it's 10, but it could be 11. I could have my dates wrong. I have to go look and see, because I took photos and posted them when we first got them, the day we brought them home. Sorry, there's a stubborn little thin spot right in here. I guess more right there. You guys probably don't see it at all, but I see it, and it's driving me batty. So I want to try to get this filled in right now. That's not that much of an issue there. So try to get this tucked into here and get that filled in. But yeah, well, I kind of like this. I think it's a much more portable medium, shall we say. I mean, I have a lot of it, but, you know, I could compress the air down out of my bags, and, you know, if we went somewhere, I could work on it in a hotel or something at the end of the night to kind of chill out and relax if I really wanted to. I don't have to worry about having water with me or a wet canvas smearing. I wouldn't do this outside necessarily, especially on a windy day. If it's not that windy, then yeah, probably. I mean, you just have to worry about your fluff flying away. So, I mean, if you can do fluff management fairly well, then I guess, you know, you can do it outside. But, do be mindful that even a slight gentle breeze could take your fluff, so don't leave it laying all around. Because that could be problematic. Just a little bit. Alright, so I'm just gonna try to re-flatten out the back here. So you can kind of see those pencil shavings still in there, but you can kind of see like the back side of the image that we've got happening. It's nothing like the other one, like the back side on the other one. I mean, you can still see a little bit of a tinge of the tealy green felt that we used, but it's not quite as in your face as the orange one is. But, you know, we're not going to see the back. We're not viewing the back on a regular basis, just when we flip it over. But, so we finally have our background completed. So, yay. And let's see, what time is it? I think we'll stop there for today. So let's see, who can we visit while I'm looking up things and stuff? We could go visit Sharpie. I don't know how much longer she's gonna be going, but we can go see her. I think she was doing something this weekend. So, oh my goodness, my sinuses are so bad. So we can go see her. Now, this stream schedule this week will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and next Sunday. What? Twitch chat, what are you doing here? Alright, so I will see everybody on Wednesday. Thanks for the new follows. Thanks for the raid. Thanks for the bits. You guys are great. And good luck on whatever you're working on. Hope you have a good week. And I hope to see you on Wednesday for whatever we're doing on Wednesday. So have a great one.